Welcome to There Is Hope. The advice or counsel given is provided for informational purposes only. Your host for There Is Hope, Richard Dover.
This is your radio host, Richard Dover, with There Is Hope Radio. And today I'm doing an interview with my son, Joshua. Joshua was involved in a motorcycle crash on August 1st, 2020. And we have not done an update on his story since December 24th of 2021. So, Josh, before we go into an update on what's going on with you, you should probably cover why that'd be significant. Why would it even matter?
I was riding my motorcycle in Oregon, Southern Oregon, and was involved with a head-on collision with an SUV. I sustained multiple traumatic injuries and have been recovering since then.
And what were those injuries that got involved?
I had my face crushed in, burned alive, 2 vertebrae in my back exploded, my hip exploded, my aorta ruptured, my left hand was pretty, the wrist was pretty messed up, broken bones, and my right thumb, blood clot my left leg, 7 broken ribs. I had shoulder injuries and countless other small little things, but just a pretty traumatic accident that doctors said is an impossibility to live through. So I'm a walking, talking miracle.
You're a walking, talking miracle, and sadly, you're not totally fixed yet. Is that right?
I'm a hobbling, talking
yeah.
miracle.
So, back in December, you got hip surgery, and why don't you explain what that was about, and then we'll pick up from there, because the hope was after that hip surgery, life would be much easier for you, and that has not been the case. So why don't you describe why you had to have a hip surgery and why you're not all better now?
The original accident, my right hip was where the bumper of the SUV impacted, and I had one surgery to essentially put the socket back together, and then several months later my femoral bone, the femoral head became necrotic, and they had to go in and do a hip replacement, and about 2 months after that my hip started dislocating. The artificial one dislocated 4 different times, and so this surgery this last December was to correct that, and it was a successful surgery. However, as is kind of par for the course, every time something gets fixed on me, something else shows that it's been a problem, and it's just showing up because the pain caused by the most severe thing kind of masks everything. And so right now I'm still dealing with back problems, but my hip is completely good to go, and the pain and all that I had from that is come down substantially, and the only thing kind of really holding me back right now is my back pain.
So we all thought that after this last hip surgery, if it was a success, that you'd be up, and I think you probably really thought this. I don't know, maybe you didn't. I'm assuming you did. That after that hip surgery, actually I don't think you probably did, just because you're suspicious of any kind of victory that you get, what's going to happen next because of what happens. But the concept was you're going to have that hip surgery, you'll be able to get up and walk around again. And in fact, we should probably say this before the hip surgery. One of the reasons that your hip went out of place is because you're starting to do things. So why don't you talk about some of the things last summer in 2020 or in 2021? What was it that you were doing? Some of the things you were doing them with pain, but you were much more mobile then than you are right now. And so why don't you share kind of what was going on at that time?
Well, I could go out on my own and go fishing if I wanted to. Go drive down to the lake and go fishing, and did some yard work. I mean, to the point I was working on a ditch. I, like you said, dealt with pain, but my mobility was much better, and I just kind of determined on what to me was more important than letting pain stop it. So I mean, I was very highly involved in church, doing a lot of activities there, and at home, I mean, I pretty much lived outdoors.
And it was, quote, if it was a normal life, that if it would have stayed that way, you would have been able to deal with that, even though there was a lot of pain involved.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have welcomed the pain because that pain sucked, but there my limitations were a lot less than what they are now.
So after you had your surgery in December, with the hope that you're not only going to be able to do what you were doing, but you would be able to do more and with less pain, that has not been what's turned out to be for you. So where are you at today? This is February 20th of 2022. Where are you today when it comes to your mobility, what you're able to do? And are you limited in what you're able to do because your body can't do it, or because of the pain? What's going on? Give an update for those who've been following and tracking with you for a long time now.
Well, before this surgery in December, my pain was primarily in my lower back and in my hip, and the surgery took care of a large chunk of the pain in the hip, and the lower back pain completely went away. And for almost a week and a half, 2 weeks after surgery, I had no back pain at all, and it was pretty amazing. And then kind of the floodgates opened, and the back pain came back, but it wasn't. I shouldn't say came back. The lower back is still not the issue. The middle of my back started having problems with pain where the fusions were done, and found out through MRI and X-rays that there's some issues in there. I feel like I've taken a bit of a leap backwards, and I have pretty bad pain that is kind of the limiting factor, with the fact that because of the being so much in the bedridden essentially from when the dislocation started happening, that my muscles atrophied, and I have very, very low muscle mass in my back, and so it's not just pain. There's nothing holding things together, like holding it up. Like it's kind of at the minimum level, and so I get weakness pretty bad, and it doesn't take much. My stamina is kind of next to gone, and so every day is different. I don't really know how a day is going to go until I wake up, and then that determines, if I can do much anything, or if I'm laying in bed all day, and how much I can push into, through the pain for physical therapy, or then now I've started water treatment, and every day depicts whether I can do that or not too. Just depends on how I wake up.
So it's not the quote anything of the result of the accident at this point, as much as it is of the fact that there is issues when it comes to strength and ability, muscular ability, and all that kind of stuff. That, again, ultimately is because of the accident, but it's more because of not being able to have movement for the last couple of months. Is that accurate?
Mostly the issues with the pain in the back is both muscular, skeletal, and nerve, and the nerve part of it is, I guess, from the fact that my body healed a certain way from the accident injuries, and so that's causing complications with the nerves, and then the atrophy is the problem, not directly from the accident, but.
So the big issue is the atrophy that's going on, which there wouldn't be atrophy if it wasn't for the accident and all that's gone on, and the injuries from the accident and the recovery rehabilitation process. But the reality is you're in a kind of a catch-22, because it isn't directly a result of the accident, but because of the accident, you are where you're at. So how and it sounds kind of confusing, but I think it's confusing for you. How is it that you deal with that? What is that like? I mean, you could, that you could go anywhere and everywhere, because physically you're not limited in the sense that you got broken body parts, that your leg didn't heal properly, your back didn't heal properly. It's not because of that. It's because of this whole atrophy thing. How do you deal with all that?
Minute by minute.
Minute by minute. I mean, is this what you thought would be a year and a half in recovery?
I honestly never thought of that. Never.
I mean, I mean, because you said you haven't done into the future a whole lot during the last year and a half, but did you think in your future would be, I have all my body parts, quote, in theory healed, which obviously they're not, but all my body parts are healed, but I'm not going to be able to do anything because I have fatigue and no strength to do it. I mean, did you think that was the way it would be, or did you think that you'd be walking crippled the rest of your life?
I honestly didn't think. Maybe. Because it's been such a roller coaster journey, I don't think very far ahead. Uh, you know, I love the saying of the light at the end of the tunnel. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, you think it's the end of the tunnel, and then it's the oncoming train. And so I think earlier you said something about you know thinking the surgery was going to do something. Or I don't put much hope in a lot of what I'm told by the doctor is going to be the next thing that fixes everything, just because it never is. And so I've had family ask before, what are your plans and stuff like that. Literally to get to tomorrow is my plan. That's kind of a thing. I mean, when I was doing much better before the hip dislocations and stuff, I started thinking, I'm actually going to possibly be able to hike one day and do this and do that, and thought about that, but didn't think about it too deeply. Just it was exciting to know that I was being able to push myself through pain a lot more and more, and then everything kind of backpedaled after that, and I haven't thought about much of the future hardly at all, just because just got to make it through the day.
Okay, so we've shared all the negative. There's quite a bit in the negative in the sense of the limitations you have, but we also should share a couple of positives, and they can be really good positives based upon, and I wanted us to cover this a little bit because this is not a positive for many people who've been in your situation. One of the positives is you're off all narcotic pain medication. And the truth is, maybe if you got back on it, you would maybe be able to do more. And we've kind of talked about that at different times, looking at that. But why don't you talk about the positive part that has to do with being off their narcotics?
There's the health benefits of it. I don't think relying on medication for all the different problems with your body is the best route. Obviously, getting healthy is the number one priority, and I didn't get off opiates by desire, so to speak, from the beginning of it, but after mistake by the VA, I realized that my pain was no different with or without, and so I asked to stay off, and they're talking about possibly bringing him back through a different source than the VA. And honestly, at this point, I'm really looking to doing that, just because the pain is getting pretty bad. But I've never wanted to be on narcotics, not once. I just hate the idea of being on something that your body gets addicted to, and it's never been an emotional high, or I've never gotten any of the so-called highs off of the narcotics for me. But
Yeah, so you've never got you've never had the psychological addiction. You've never gotten really a buzz, have you?
no.
You don't even understand why people would, right?
I understand the concept, but the only thing I've ever gotten originally was pain relief, and so for that I thought it was amazing in that sense. But I mean, why anyone would get addicted to it and destroy their life because it's doing them some kind of benefit with it getting a high, that concept's hard for my brain, just because all I know is all it does is help with some pain.
over the year, over the little over a year, well, over almost a year and a half of being on narcotics and high level of some of the narcotics, very, very high levels, you never really got the high, the buzz, the psychological, emotional highs. And other than you understand it because you know it happens to people, it's hard for you to comprehend that because that would not be the reason you would not get off, that you would get off of the drug, is because you don't want to be addicted psychologically. You don't really understand any of that.
Uh, I guess that, I mean, I've done drugs before in my past, and so I understand the concept of getting high and all that, but the narcotics have never once done that for me, and so it's, I know every body is different, but uh, the only thing I've ever gotten that's beneficial from a narcotic in this last year and a half is pain relief, and even then my body figures it out or metabolizes. I don't know what it does, but the pain relief starts to not actually. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would say that what the truth of the matter is, no matter how high a level of narcotic you've been on, and then they switch you to another narcotic, and then they switch you to another narcotic, is it never truly gives you, it doesn't give you any psychological addiction, and it never really gives you true relief. And that's one of the reasons why you decided to get off of it, because you really weren't getting, you're wondering what the benefit of being on the narcotic was.
Yeah, I mean, when I was on Dilaudid, that was the first thing they found worked for me. And I mean, when you're in level 10 pain for hours straight and they can't do anything to stop it, and they finally find something that stops it, then to me it becomes a miracle drug. And that was Dilaudid for quite a while. And then, instead of being in level 10 pain, I was down no higher than level 7, 8 pain. And so to me, that's an effective drug. Now, 7 and 8 pain is nowhere near a fun state to be, but it's, if you consider it against a 10, it's amazing. And then after quite a while, and they kept having to switch medications because it stopped being able to do, what it's supposed to do. And I guess being on narcotics, essentially, it was keeping me from going into the level 9 and 10 spaces, which is hell. But it's hard to, in my mind, to think about it, because anything that is touted as supposed to be a heavy duty narcotic that is supposed to take all this pain down and stuff, well, if it's only keeping me from hellish pain, then yes, it's a good thing. But at the same time, uh, I've expected every time I've been told about certain ones that I'm going to get on it, and then suddenly I'm going to be walking around and being like, oh, where's the pain? There's no pain. And that's just not the reality.
And so now you've been off for a couple of months, and you're considering getting back on. And what's the reason you're considering getting? Before we say that, I should say we realized, and I've ran addiction recovery program for years and dealt with addicts over 20 years, and so I've seen all the effects of narcotics. I absolutely hate narcotics because of the damage I've seen done. I think it can be helpful for some people, and it does help them to be able to function. But I personally, when it comes to the addiction side, I have not seen that good of benefits from narcotics that outweighs all the addiction problems and everything else. And so it's been, I've been very cautious seeing my own son on narcotics, and yet you haven't had that problem. But now you're looking about getting back on, because the concept would be is maybe it's going to get your relief back down where you can do more. But then isn't the question, maybe it gets your pain relief down more, but physically, because of the atrophy, is not going to make any difference in your mobility. It's all it's going to do is make your life a little bit easier to deal with pain, but not actually work out for you to be able to do more. Is that accurate?
The whole concept of going back on, if I decide to do it or not, is that if it gets me down in a low enough pain level to where I can push myself with physical therapy, then the physical therapy is what's going to build up the muscle. And right now, I'm struggling with physical therapy because it's very hard to push yourself through pain when you don't have really anything that is stopping you from increasing in the pain once you get to a certain level. And so I have to be very, very careful now because I don't have anything very potent that I'm on. So if I push myself too much, and even days that I wake up and realize if I push myself at all, I'm going to go into a realm of hell with pain. And so um, it's the only thought of bringing it back is it'll get me to where I can push myself past the pain, or hopefully not have a lot of the pain, so that I can just push myself, and then the getting the muscle tone back and in the body will get me to a point where then I can just come off of it, the proper way this time, and not have to use it for pain because my body is, taking care of itself.
And so, would you say that you're one big experiment?
I think what one of my plaques on my wall you got me says "son of anomalies," and I think one of the doctors even said that I'm a medical anomaly.
So, how do you deal with all this?
Uh,
As we close out, I mean, we're closing out this interview without the most positive thing with the interview. But so, how are you dealing with all this? Because it everything is up in the air all the time. Now, me personally, I'm planning for the future way too much probably. I'm always looking proactive. I'm a proactive kind of guy, so I'm always planning out. I'm always trying to find another option in case this doesn't that doesn't work. And in fact, I spend a lot of time of probably preparing for things I don't need to prepare for. But I like to be very proactive in my life, and I like control of my life. And I don't like things to go on because I haven't been in control of my life. So to be in the situation you're in would literally be hell for me. And so what your personality can be totally different, but what makes it that you cope with all of that?
I don't know that I do the best coping with it, but I mean, my biggest thing is relying on God because I'm sure as heck couldn't do this by myself, my own accord. And honestly, I think it's pretty bumpy because I don't go through it gracefully or anything like that. It is hell, but I just rely on God, rely on relationships, and just really honestly the whole not thinking too far ahead in the future is for my own mental well-being, because of the fact that everything changes so quickly with my recovery that if I, looking forward to something and then it doesn't happen, that letdown factor um, would be horrible to me if I kept putting my baskets in one egg, so to speak.
So really for your benefit is not to be proactive and unquote on top of things because it's not like you're really limited in the control you have about anything right now.
I mean, when I, I mean, going to the pool and uh, doing exercises, aquatic therapy or whatever. That to me, that's what I look forward to is being able to do that because being in the pool relieves some pain while I'm in there. And so that's what I look forward to. And what do I have to control? Well, not a whole lot because my pain depicts on what I'm gonna be able to
So
control.
even though you might say put your eggs in the basket for the aquatic thing, you've learned now after just a few weeks that that's not something you can really put your hope in either.
I mean, Friday was a great example. I was not doing good Friday and knew that just the drive to go over there would I wouldn't be able to do it. Just physically couldn't do it. And so I missed out Friday, and uh, thankfully you guys, you and Mom drove me to the aquatic place yesterday, and so I was able to still get in and get some relief. But I mean, I wake up, and that day is determined by how I wake up. And Friday I woke up. Thursday night I was not doing too well either, and it's not always the case that the night prior tells me what's going to happen, but a lot of times if I'm hurting bad the night before, it doesn't suddenly change and I'm good in the morning. So I questioned if I was going to be able to go Thursday night, and sure enough, woke up and was in a lot of pain, and so I don't. I guess I don't have a lot of control over what I can and can't do, and so not having a lot of control, you kind of got to give it up because I'm just like you. I want to control all kinds of my life, and I haven't been able to do that hardly at all in the last year and a half since the accident. And so I've learned through the kind of the hard way that you know you kind of get to give up control.
And I would say that over the last year being with you, seeing what's gone on, it has brought reminders to me over and over again in my own life that you can be physically well, you can have everything going for you overall, but you always have to face the fact that it can change any moment. So even though I'm the guy that's proactive, want to do this or that, I've learned that whatever I plan may just go sour completely. And so I do what I can do, and then at the end of the day, I just say, well, whatever goes on, goes on. And I think that's something, as we close here, I think that's something that ultimately you're an example of where all of us should be at, is that at the end of the day, no matter how much control we have very little. Because what I can't control is what's going to happen when I go to work. Can I control if another vehicle hits me? Can I control if when I get back home, what shape is Josh going to be? I've learned one thing: I don't plan on doing anything with you, because anything I would plan with you could go sour. So there comes a point in life where ultimately all of us, no matter if we're in physical bad shape, good shape, anything else, is we don't have a whole lot of control in life at the end of the day. And so either we have to trust that God is in control, that everything passes through his hands, that he has a purpose and a reason for everything, or we could be very miserable people. And I think there's people that are extremely healthy. I think there's people who have great jobs. They're making big money, and I think they're unhappy with life because they can't, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much good health you have, you only can control so much. You can't control if your spouse leaves you. You can't control if a company goes bankrupt. There's so many different things in life you cannot, and you certainly cannot control the day-to-day things when it comes to, if I'm in control. So you go to the grocery store and that ice cream you want's not on the shelf. There's things you don't have control over, never will. And to be able to find that peace, and I think for it really is that either God's in control or he's not. Either that God is watching over me or he's not. Either God has a plan for my life for the day or he don't. And so of more learning of being able to say, God, what is your plan today? What do you have on the agenda today? And I just want to be faithful to follow the agenda you have for today. And that's ultimately the only control I have, is to allow you, God, to be in control. And I'd say that that was not probably you a few years ago, and that's what more than anything else this action has done for you. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't want to say I am, because I don't feel like I am as much anymore. But before the accident, I was a huge control freak, and um, you know, I could determine, I could control everything to go the way I wanted it to go, and that, at least that's what I thought. And that all completely changed August 1st, and I think God's done a lot. I think I still got a long way to go, but he's done a lot with one of the biggest things for me is patience. And um, my personality would be, okay, I got an accident, okay, I can do this. I just got to do step A, B, C, D in this order, push this hard, and I'll be walking and doing, everything that I ever used to do that I love to do. I'll be doing it again in this many months. I worked very good in that kind of capacity. Well, when that's all up in the air, I've had to kind of give that up, and that's been something God's worked on with me throughout this whole journey, was giving up control and just saying, hey, God, whatever it is you got for me, I'm gonna go ahead and do it, and be happy and content with where I'm at, not you know just base my feelings and emotions and everything off of my circumstances, but base it off of what you have for me. I get blessed every day at different moments throughout the day, God does a little thing here and there that I don't think I would have ever seen before.
So as we end, is that one of the things that has been gained? We've talked about all the negative stuff, and it can be very depressing looking at your situation. But is that, would you say, one of the great positives in the midst of it is that you have found how to be able to enjoy life in the little things, enjoy life in such a way that you at least can look at, you never want to be there, but you can at least look at and you can start to understand why there are people who are paraplegic and other things, and they have joy in their life. Do you think you kind of get the understanding of that now?
Oh yeah, it's everything's about perspective, and I think that's the biggest thing for me is uh, my perspective has changed a lot.
So as we end, what would you want to share in closing? What would you like to share?
Just don't give up. And, uh, whenever you're struggling, you got to reach out because you can't do it alone. And whether that's calling out to God or calling out to friend, family, whoever, sometimes all there is God. And just don't be silent. And I can tell you, God doesn't mind if you get mad and yell and scream and rant and rave and everything else. All He cares is that you're just talking. And whether that's out loud or in your head, um, just realize that He's personal.
And as we close here, I want to say that in the midst of all that Josh has gone through as his father, to see it and wishing I could fix things and make his life easier and what could I do, and I've come to the realization there's not a whole lot I can do, and at times feel guilty about that and feel like I should do more, and I don't know, probably some days I could do more and should do more, but in the big picture is that I have to give Josh up to God and say, Lord, do what you got to do, and we've got to trust the Lord that Josh makes it through what he's going through. For me, I'm kind of a proactive guy again, so in my head, I look at what we're going to do in the summer, of all the things we're going to do in the summer, and I've learned that instead of talking to Josh and say, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, I might joke about something with him, but overall, I don't really say anything to you about what we're going to do, right?
No, I don't really. I respond, but I don't like get excited or anything.
Yeah. So I realized, why am I going to throw this agenda out to him? One, it may never happen, and two, why put that for and look forward for that it may not go the way we would plan it, and so again, planning the future. If I'm not working, one of the reasons I don't want to work, I want to spend more time with my son. I want to be able to do things we didn't get to do for years and years of not having a relationship, and so. Living here in Arkansas, there's so many different things we can do, so many fun things to look at that me and him enjoy. And instead of broadcasting all that, I think about what we could do, but then I just say, well, we may not be able to do that. So what will we be able to do? Well, if we're able to just sit down and watch the chickens. Now it hurts me as I say this because my son can't even get out of the house and walk out the door to walk down a little hill to be able to sit and watch the chickens. And that seems like such a crazy little thing, but as Carmen and I were feeding them and they're running all over, chasing each other, playing their chicken basketball, football, and soccer and wrestling and everything else with the food. And Josh can't even see that without us. We'd have to try to get him in the truck to drive him down. We're talking about about 300 feet away. But the work of getting him in the truck to drive him over there to see him and then him getting out of the truck, is better that he not even do that at times. And so I've just learned that we just enjoy what we have to do, trust that God has got more in the plans for the future. And in the end of the day, is that the reality is there's still good stuff in life. There's still stuff to enjoy. And I always look at it, for me, the way I deal with this, I always look at people who have it a whole lot worse than Josh. And I have friends and people I know that have it a whole lot worse than Josh. And yet they have a smile on their face. They can sing a song in the midst of what they're going through. And so it really is perspective. And I guess I would end with this, that really has to be, you have to get it, that mindset of getting the perspective and really getting a bigger picture of what's going on, and to be able to really look at it that what we put our happiness in the end is our happiness has to be not on this earth. Our happiness has to be what goes on after we die, and that's to have eternal life in heaven. because we have no guarantees here, but we have a guarantee that when we do pass on from this life, that we have eternal life in heaven if we know Christ is our Lord. And eternity in heaven, I don't think there's going to be any complaints about what went on here on earth. And
I was ready for my glorified body.
yeah, that's all you're looking forward to, right? Then it won't matter. So, all right, Josh, thank you for the interview. We need to do a few more about some other subjects some point in time, but I know that even doing this interview can be trying for you, so we'll do that at a different time.
You've been listening to There Is Hope, and any advice or counsel given was provided for informational purposes only. For more information on what you've heard about today, click on thereishoperadio.org. That's thereishoperadio.org.